The Commonwealth has accused Karen Reed of striking her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, with her car after a night of drinking and leaving him in the snow to die. The defense is saying, as they said in their opening statement, that Karen Reed was framed and this is all a cover-up. After the cross-examination of Brian Higgins finished, John O'Keefe's niece and nephew testified. Their testimony was protected from the stream. Their names have not been allowed to be released by the media outlets that were in the courtroom to cover it. Journalists were allowed to cover it with pencil and paper. No live tweeting, no using a computer to take notes, nothing like that. And I have read through a number of the reports about the testimony given by the niece and nephew, which is how most outlets refer to them and how I will refer to them. It seems both were mainly called to testify about the relationship between Karen and John, the nephew testifying that they had been fighting a lot, that there would be yelling and raised voices, and on cross-examination making clear that there had never been any physical fighting between the victim, John O'Keefe, and defendant Karen Reed. The niece testifying about Karen's behavior the morning of January 29th, that she woke up and she was frantic and panicked, and the niece had never seen her in a state like that. And she was saying that they had been in a fight and that he didn't come home. And could I have done something? Could something have happened? Could he have been hit by a snowplow? Could I have hit him? Just, it seems from the reports of the testimony that the niece was recalling someone who was panicked and spiraling into all different avenues of, could it be this? Could it be that? What could it be? He's not home. And then the niece was calling people for Karen Reed, which we heard from other testimony. Reports also say that the niece made clear that Karen Reed's statements on her phone calls kind of shifted, and she started leaving out the fact that she and John had been in a fight that evening, and started leaving out the could I have hit him and things like that. So it was interesting to hear that testimony from someone who observed all of the phone calls that Karen Reed was making at one time. So at the end of day 18, which was the afternoon of May 28th session, the state started calling their more expert witnesses. The ER doctor who saw John O'Keefe and also, well, doesn't remember, but also saw Karen Reed before her blood was drawn. The lab techs and pathologists who did the alcohol reading for Karen Reed's blood, and then getting into the town of Canton professionals who maintained the snowplow routes and the video system for the town that is motion activated. What we learned from that is that Karen Reed's blood alcohol, when it was drawn at the hospital at 9:08 a.m. the morning of January 29th, was a 9.3. The extrapolation to that, because you have to move from the medical use of the serum blood alcohol to the legal use of the whole blood alcohol, would have put her BAC between a 0.078 and a 0.083 with an average of a 0.081. That is at 9 a.m. They also did a retrograde extrapolation. This is the crime lab witness, and determined the range at the time of driving in this case would have been a 0.135 to a 0.292. On cross-examination, the defense pointed out that if Karen Reed had not taken her last drink at 12:45, as the crime lab was told, but had drank later on in the morning after 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., if she had had any alcohol then, it would completely throw off that retrograde extrapolation number. And the witness agreed, yes, it would completely throw off the retrograde extrapolation number. And that is going to be a matter of contention as this case continues. We also heard from the person who maintains all the schedules for the plows, and that Trooper Proctor called him and he said, you can call operations and these are the plow routes. And then we heard from the IT individual that provided the camera footage from outside the library, who said that those cameras are motion activated. The raw footage is kept for less than 30 days. And that law enforcement asked for that footage to be sent, and he provided a link for law enforcement to download and save that footage. The defense asked on cross-examination if this witness was aware that minutes of footage were missing, and he said, no, I looked at the front of the timestamp around midnight. to the end of the timestamp that I was told around 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. I looked at those times and made sure there was video captured because, again, it's motion activated, that there was video captured at those times. And then I provided all the footage between those bumpers. And that's what was provided to law enforcement. And then sometime in April 2023, law enforcement reached out to that IT individual and said, hey, can you reprovide that raw footage? And the individual said, no, that's long gone. I provided it to you back when you asked it, but the IT department did not independently save it after it was sent to law enforcement, which in my experience is not uncommon. Once they send it to law enforcement, they're like, it's on y'all to preserve it and copy it unless they are expressly and specifically told to keep it on their end for some reason. Oftentimes that will be asked for in the warrant or subpoena for that footage, but it was not done here. And with all of that, we are at the end of day 18. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.